Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SB Reacts, where today we got ourselves a track from an act named Martin Tennant titled Underneath My Shadow. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a track on the screen here on Spotify. We've got the art up there for you. Apparently, Martin is a Scottish indie alternative singer-songwriter, and this is their second release after the track, I presume, being Forgotten Son. There's an acoustic version as well here, but we're going to listen through Underneath My Shadow from start till finish today, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it. What have we got? I like the flanging on it. Really heavy kick. Great transfer between ideas there. Very smooth. Nice to have the guitar and vocals feed off of each other and have different turns. It's nice to have the fade out of the instruments at the end. I appreciate that we're not trying to rush the conclusion to it. It just shows attention to detail. Sometimes I have tracks that are sent through and they just cut it off immediately without the instruments really having time to come down. So it's cool. It's cool. I think I understand what this track's about, and we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Martin Tennant, titled Underneath My Shadow. In this section, we're going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But before we go any further, what do I think, or what do we think this track is about? Because I think that this song, we discuss, we drink and smoke, trying to forget this word was one of the lines there. We also have lines in the chorus like, don't take my hand there. But we also discuss trying to find a place for us. But then near the end, we talk about a broken shadow there, where I think effectively it's about our own self-awareness of our own struggles and difficulties that we are going through, understanding that we're maybe not in a position to be able to facilitate a relationship or a connection to this person in a way that's healthy, but that we nonetheless still want to have something eventually, if not right now. And I think it's almost kind of going between feeling like we're lost because of how difficult things are, but also like a quiet frustration about wanting things to be better and it kind of struggling to attain that. It's a journey that we go through. I probably need another listen through it to kind of get a bit more of the nuance behind it. But I nonetheless feel like it's a well-versed and it's an intriguing tale that is put forward by Martin in a form factor of, 5 minutes 19 that I think is well fleshed out. It justifies its length with the amount of context you have amongst the other instrumental parts and the vocal bits as well. I think in terms of the actual vocal performance, we're quite comfortable on the microphone. We hit the notes neatly. We're clearly comfortable with harmonizing as well on the sides there. We have some interesting tails there. We have some cooler responses in certain accented parts. We know when to have just the mains and then for them to come on the side as well. We have some notes that are held whilst others rhythmically are a bit shorter with some of the syllables and sort of stanzas and cadences, and we also explore a range comfortably. We seem, like we're in a good place with our head and chest voice there. So I feel like we passed the fundamentals, and it's sung in a way which both seems like they're trying to not over-articulate and therefore keep it more authentic. But they're also trying to do things within it in terms of like the expression in regards to the dynamics and the quote-unquote feel of it to make it intriguing and varied throughout the piece. I also appreciate that we show an awareness of the other instruments, such as the lead guitars, and we don't try to just make it specifically only about the vocals, as there's, again, in a longer track like this, there's enough time to be able to sort of explore those options. But yeah, honestly, really comfortable vocal performance with a track that is 5 minutes 19. It's outside of the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot where when you go further than that, you really need different bass lines and chord progressions and adjustments to the way that the guitars are played and their various parts, as well as the drums and bass and stuff like that. And I do feel like you have a sufficient amount of that here with a variety of different verses and choruses and amongst sort of intro sections, outros, solos, and interludes and other parts there. It justifies the length of it. And I'm thankful for that, because if we don't have variation in a longer form piece, unless the main lines are extremely compelling, it can be a long listen. The track itself starts with a picked sort of like quarter note count and guitar part, and you immediately go into some flanges there, which is just an interesting textural choice there. It kind of seems like things are floating about, almost like the thoughts in our head. And we have some really pretty sounding jangly bar chords there, or maybe they are sort of like open chords there with a capo or something, I'm not sure, but it's just very pretty sounding immediately. It's trying to present itself as quite gentle, even though there's a bit of nuance to it. When we have the lead guitarists come in, they have this sort of scratchiness there, a raw, unfiltered sound that contrasts with some of the smoothness of those rhythm guitar parts, but I think that's just basically to differentiate them in the mix. And they provide this sort of faux lead or alt lead there for when Martin comes in to sort of keep you contained. There is this fantastic push to the drums that comes in with the body of that kick drum. I wasn't initially sure about it because I was wondering if it was like maybe a little too pushed in terms of the compression, but I do think it has a nice sort of satisfying thump to it that presents a solid sense of groove to the piece there and amongst the snares and hi-hats and cymbals and other elements there. And I like the fact that we aren't afraid, such as around the 120 mark in the chorus section, to bring in some tom and snare fills and some rolls and articulations and adjust some on beats and syncopateds for the snare hits there. It's nice to be able to, it's in the same way as it's nice to be able to arpeggiate the guitars and not just strum the chords and do lead parts there, to be able to explore different ways of representing certain chords and triads. It's nice for the drums to be able to not just rely on the quarter notes and to be also put some eighths and sixteenths in there and sort of add a bit of sort of further diversity to it. Because of the changes to the way things are being played, the track is more sort of engaging. It's more exciting, and it encourages the listener to hear more because they know they won't just have the same thing over and over. It's one of those fundamentals of composition that I think is covered very well here. Again, and we have further changes in chord progression, such as around a 308 mark there, where it evolves over the piece there, and we're exploring different moods. I try not to think too much about it there. There's an innate tension in regard to the harmonies and then the change in pace of the bass line itself, the mood of the piece. And when we come into that guitar solo around 3:45 with the lead guitar playing a variety of different hammer-ons, pull-offs and bends and such like that, with a bit more kind of attitude to it arguably than beforehand, you're just thinking, okay, we're still adding more and more to it. With the bass line underneath itself, the bass guitar providing a great ground floor alongside the drums. We know with the bass line not just playing roots either, it does move around with some firsts and fifths and maybe some scale shapes there. It's just nice for the bass not just to be doing the same kind of like root notes the entire time. And it's almost like we have like an organ or keys near the end there with the way things kind of warble out. It could just be the aftertaste of the guitars, I'm not quite sure, but regardless, it's very cool. But there's also the panning of stuff as well, compositionally, not just production wise. We have guitar parts going between the sides of the stereo field there, and you're kind of following the track around and not sure what's going to happen next. It's very good. There's clearly been a lot of thought put into the individual components of the piece and how they interact with each other and how they segment and sort of like proceed through the piece. I've got no complaints about it. It's very good. It's very good. I feel like you fleshed out the main sort of parts of it in a way which is beneficial for the track and listening experience. From a thematic experience, I like that we go between minors and major keys within this, and we're not just sort of dependent on a specific overall quote-unquote mood, because it's just further differentiation with a piece. It maybe elicits a feeling that, oh, we're coming up to something here, we're feeling better about this in the major parts, where when it goes down, you're kind of going maybe back into the nuance of being underneath the shadow, for example. You're back under that. We have a moment we break out and then we come back underneath it. And when we do enter those more minor oriented sections there without any sort of chromatics aside from some bluesy passages within the lead guitar, if I'm not mistaken, it does put you in a headspace where you're like, yeah, no, we can feel what we're feeling. It's easier to follow along with it in part because of what's suggested. You just can't take for granted that you're going to get more than one or even two chord progressions nowadays, just simply because a lot of the time the push and preference, especially in terms of modern composition, I'm not being like, oh, modern tracks don't have chord changes. It's just more that just from my experience as a reviewer, you do have less, so it's great to have more. But yeah, it's a fantastic sounding track. I think a tight performance across the board without a note out of place. The studio recording, mixing and mastering is pretty good. I mentioned the compression on the mix being a little bit tight, but that's okay. It almost sounds like it'd be just as good live as in the studio. The vocals come through clearly, as well as the vocals on the side, the background ones. They're nicely pitched. The guitars on different sides of the stereo field are good as well, because it implies that they've been double tracked, which is always a plus. Just to make them sound a bit wider in the mix. And the lead in the center does overtake with the vocals when it needs to, in a way where it makes sense to as well, considering they're alt leads. The bass underneath is well presented, and the effects change that you have on the guitars as well as the vocals with a mixture of EQ, compression, reverbs, etc. They're soulful, and they add rather than distract from what we're trying to communicate. Nice and loud bass compression, limiting its handled. There's a bit of production-based dynamic range, but it's, there is at the end, to be fair, it fades out. It's well handled. No applicable constructive critique from me personally. I just think this is a very well well performed and produced track. And from a final general listener's perspective, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a very good first impression to Martin's music. They clearly understand what they're doing. It'll be interesting to see how they expand upon these existing topics in future tracks, but for now, I just think we've put a second track another step forward in the right direction. I wish them all the best of luck in future with their musical endeavors. Because thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named Martin Tennant, titled Underneath My Shadow. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show him some love via the various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.